Your take on the actions that are proposed, that is threatened by the United States, considering expansion of its travel ban to include Saint Lucia.
Well, Timothy, what I know is pretty much what everybody has read. I have no, I'm not privy to any additional information. I haven't seen, the correspondence that was sent to government. And like anybody else, I've read all the concerns that people have raised about potential corruption, lack of transparency, potential abuse. These are not new. I've heard the same about St. Kitts, Dominica, Antigua, and clearly it gives you an indication that this is a program that, it is, you have to be so careful about. And in the absence of transparency, you're going to get that kind of accusation. But at the same time, people's concerns about, that is why the U.S. is doing what it's doing. I don't actually feel that that is the only reason. That may be a reason. I can't say for sure. But the thing that we all know is that even if you have a St. Lucia passport, you still have to apply for a visa to go to the United States. And their vetting, their due diligence is probably even more robust than ours. So, if we have a CIP program, that by itself is not enough to worry the U.S. that it's going to result in a bunch of strange bad actors coming to their country. And they haven't said that. And they're not targeting St. Lucia. They've mentioned a bunch of CIP countries, except for Grenada. And that makes you wonder. And, when you start to read between the lines, it tells you that essentially the U.S. is, this is not unusual for that regime in the States. Mr. Trump is known by the acronym TACO now, which is Trump always chickens out, because he comes out with accusations and threats and whatnot, and then when the time comes, or the deadline comes, he changes his mind and comes up with a different result. And we've seen that so many times now. And the thing that seems to have an impact on him is when what he's saying that he's going to do affects either well-heeled supporters. For example, the recent thing in LA, where he's now saying that if you are a good immigrant on the farms or in the hotel industry, you won't be sent back. I mean, after having said he's going to send everybody back. Now, if you read the memo, one of the things you see, and that's down, towards the end, it clearly says that if a country was willing to accept third country nationals who were removed from the United States or enter a safe third country agreement, it could mitigate their concerns. Now, I know they have come to all the CARICOM countries from his inauguration and said, are you willing to take these third country nationals that we are deporting, because we need to find a place to send them, because in some cases their country won't take them back. And most of the CARICOM countries kind of said no thank you. They didn't kind of throw it in his face. They just said no, we'd prefer not to. The only one who said yes was El Salvador. So right now the only place that the U.S. can send people, and they're rounding up more and more every day, is Guantanamo, which is the next. But here they are saying that even if we have concerns with your CIP, even if we're getting a bunch of bad actors applying for U.S. visas, if in fact you are prepared to enter in an agreement to accept these safe third-party deportees, it will mitigate our concerns. What does that tell you? That seems to be the rationale for what they're doing and saying. And we have to be careful, because clearly we have no cards to play. There's nothing we can do. If the U.S. had said that if you don't do this, we'll do that, we can't say, well, we'll retaliate. We can't. There's nothing we can do. I mean, some people say, oh, build another borderlay somewhere and bring in all the third-party nationals if that's what it takes. But, having been forced to make adjustments every time, it's embarrassing. It's humiliating sometimes for us. And I certainly don't support what the U.S. is doing. And I believe that, there's probably a lot more we can do to make our CIP programs more transparent, so that it doesn't lead to conspiracy theories. But at the end of the day, as I say, CARICOM can't do anything. We can do very little. We stand to lose so much, because 60% of our tourists come from the States, 50% of our foreign direct investment comes from the States, and the only saving grace is the fact that, like Grenada, we are now getting a lot of U.S. private investment. Take Cabot as an example of that. And to that extent, these people would be concerned if they're saying, well, look, St. Lucia really hasn't done anything different. I mean, but, it's going to affect our investment in St. Lucia if you do these things. And these are well-heeled people. It could well be something that you might say, all right, well, just give us a few, show us something that suggests that, in fact, the program is safe and you're doing all your vetting and so on. So there's quite a lot of time to deal with this. There's no need to panic. I don't believe it's targeted at St. Lucia.
But Mr. PETERKIN, what if he decides to impose that travel ban on St. Lucia? What are the implications?
Horrendous. Because, I mean, for me personally, the fact that I would not be able to go to see my grandchildren and child and his wife, I just don't know. There's nothing I can do, but I mean, it would be horrible. Think of all the students that go up to the States all the time. Think of all of the, the U.S. is now kind of our favorite destination, all the trade. But most of that trade is in tourism. It's not in merchandise. So that, for example, the 10% tariff that we are frankly going to have to pay means nothing to us because it only affects a small percentage of the exports that we have. But most of our trade with the States is in services, and tourism is the biggest. So if, in fact, he was to impose a travel ban, I mean, it would mean that it would have such a serious impact, not only on our own people and the things they would like to do and now can't do, but even on people who are thinking of traveling to St. Lucia. And believe you me, I mean, the rest of the world is not going to, they're going to say they don't like it, but there's not much they can do. And there's not much we can do to retaliate. And there are countries around us and in the world that would happily take all those tourists that don't come to our shores. So from that point of view, it's very concerning. It's a serious thing. But as I say, there's no need to panic because, there are a huge number of countries that were included. None of them are Muslim. None of them are countries that are in war or things like that. And it's just, the U.S. is just beginning one by one to hit. They want bilateral agreements with everybody. And in those bilateral agreements, they're pretty much saying, you need us, you need our services, you need our market, you need our tourists. And so therefore, if you don't do certain things that we want you to do, we're going to make it very difficult for you. And they can. So from that point of view, we have to sit up and take notice. We have to go and negotiate. We don't have to kiss the ring, but at least we have to say, well, look at all the things that we are doing. And in the case of the CIP, the vetting that we do, for example, we use U.S. companies to do that due diligence. So it's not as if we are just, using some fly-by-night type, countries. There are some islands in our region that have not been serious enough. But I believe, I don't know for sure, I'm not involved in CIP. I've never been on a board or anything like that. But I've known people, Randy Ho, for example, when he was chairman, and I had a long chat with him, and he told me all that they do to vet these, potential applications. So, while I believe that we need to control some of the marketing that is done and some of the people that have been doing it, we need to restrict that to a greater extent. We need to be more transparent as to how the money is used and account for, 100% of it. But I don't think that what we have done is what's causing this U.S. threat.